to inventory. Investment primarily affect upward revision to manufacturing, notably non-durable goods. The upward revision to exports of goods was relatively widespread. The largest contributors were industrial supplies, materials, and other goods. The upward revision to imports was more accounted for by an upward revision to goods. The upward revision to state and local spending primarily affected an upward revision to investment structures. Profits from current production decreased 110.8 billion, or 5.2%, at a quarterly rate. The first quarter after decreasing 30.4 billion, or 1.4 in Q1. Profits of domestic financial corporations decreased 2.1 billion, or 0.5%, after decreasing 12.5 billion, or 2.7%. Profit of domestic non-financial corporations decreased 79.6 billion, or 6.1%, after increasing 18.1 billion, or 1.4%. Profits from the rest of the world decreased 29 billion, or 7.8%, after decreasing 31.1 billion, or 8.8% in the first quarter. Receipts decreased 40 billion, and payments decreased 11 billion. Tax on corporate income increased 25.3 billion, or 4.2% in Q1, after decreasing 4.8%, or 0.8% in Q4. Net dividend increased 5.8 billion, or 0.6%, after increasing 18.6 billion, or 2.1% there. And if we go corporate profit with inventory variation adjustment, increased 108 billion, or 4.4%, a quarterly rate in Q1, after decreasing 34.3 billion, or 1.4% in Q4. Profits on domestic industries increased 137 billion, or 6.5%, after increasing 1.8, or 0.1%. Profits on domestic financial industries increased 18.9 billion, or 3.6%, after decreasing 13 billion, or 2.4%. Profits for domestic non-financial industries increased by 118.2 billion, or 7.5%, after decreasing 14.7, or 0.9%. Larger expected increase in manufacturing, information, and transportation warehousing. The difference between profits from current production and profits before tax reflects the expiration of both the 50% bonus depreciation and an increase in Section 179 expensing limits claimed on extension of the 2010 Tax Act. So that will do it there. We'll go to the markets here and final it out, and then on to Chair Yellen. These would be on a Friday unless otherwise noted. And the BBC Global 30 was at a negative 28.56. The FTSE was down 21.37. In Amsterdam, they were down 5.58. In Frankfurt, 43.34 in the negative. The DAC, let me get that one, 25.27. In Paris, they were 2.89. In Brussels, they were in the negative 2.12. In Madrid, also 29.90 in the negative on Friday. In Zurich, 12.79. In Moscow, they were down 2.04. In Johannesburg, also down 2 94.82. In Bombay, 17.19. In Karachi, 187.91. In Lahore, 56.24. In Colombo, 37.82. In Tehran on Wednesday, they were at 605.80 in the negative there. In Sydney on Friday, 2.70. The Nikkei was at 50.80. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng was 252.49. In Shanghai, they were 134.81. And in New York, the Dow was down 33.80. The Nasdaq at 40.96. And the Merc at 2.35. In San Pablo, they were down 7.95, and in Mexico they were also down 19.52. On to the commodities. Primarily we're interested in Brent crude. It was up 15 cents at $57.07. The spot was down $1.26 at $56.59. West Texas crude was down 25 cents at $50.77. T-Boone Pickens, remember, it's $15 a barrel. Oil. Gold, if we look at the Forex index, was down $2.10 at $1,143. Dubai gold was down $3.80 at $1,144.30. Silver, $15.01. It was up 8 cents for anyone interested in silver. To the CBOT futures there, corn futures were down $9.75. Soybean futures were also down $4.25. The Euronext futures, we just grabbed cocoa here, was up, let's see, what was cocoa? $343. Corn futures down $1.75. And the Bloomberg Commodity Index, something we've added here, on Friday in the negative at 0.51. Or 0.5% also in the negative. That does it for the numbers. On to Chair Yellen. For those in business, make next week a productive one. Keep your eye on the prize. And we'll talk to you next week on
Chairman, and
the
welcome
week
back,
that was
Chair
and
Yellen.
special reports.
I'm
here.
pleased you're here this month
monitoring very
as we
closely
commemorate
the
the 5-year
situation
anniversary
in
of the
Greece.
enactment of the
Have a good
Dodd-Frank
weekend.
Wall Street Reform Act. Dodd-Frank was signed into law just as we had emerged from the worst economic collapse in a generation, one which destroyed nearly $16 trillion in household wealth and 9 million jobs, displaced 11 million Americans from their homes, and doubled the unemployment rate. But since those dark days, we've seen improvement. Dodd-Frank made significant progress, correcting the practices that helped lead us to the crisis. It has delivered billions to victimized consumers, brought greater transparency to the once opaque banking practices that have caused the crisis, and put in place clear rules of the road that foster stability in our financial system. That stability, along with the help of extraordinary monetary policy accommodation, has led to growth, including the creation of nearly 13 million private sector jobs, unemployment falling to its lowest rate since September 2008, a recovering housing market, and significant increases in 401k balances and the S&P 500. But these improvements do not paint a picture of an economy that has fully recovered. The gap between communities of color and women versus their white male counterpart remains dramatic. A lackluster first quarter and a strong dollar, coupled with economic instability and slowing growth abroad, have sapped momentum for job creation and economic expansion here at home. As such, I hope the Board of Governors will continue its slow and cautious approach to raising interest rates. Chair Yellen, as you know, raising interest rates does not in itself create a strong economy. It is a strong economy that must be the impetus for raising rates. With inflation continuing to hover near zero and numerous indicators of slack in the labor market, it is my hope that the Federal Reserve will fully consider the impact of any potential interest rate increase on the middle class and those communities that have yet to benefit from the economic recovery. So I thank you again, and I look forward to your testimony here today, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Slack in the labor market, and it seems to me that slack is disproportionately borne by African Americans and Latinos. And so this brings me to the critical importance of the full employment part of your dual mandate. And so while we're plotting upwards, there are still many storm clouds. I want to see growth which will create jobs and decrease the national debt. Now, I cringe at the austerity policies of this Republican Congress because I think it works at cross purposes with your pro-growth policies, and I want to hear you talk about that. Your predecessor, Ben Bernanke, came to Congress and told us that the sequester and the shutdown were examples of counterproductivity. We want to get this slack, as you call it, out of the labor market, but Congress needs to embrace growth policies that will help working people. Wall Street is doing just fine, but we need to invest in education and infrastructure, increase the minimum wage so that we can get more consumers spending money. I read in your testimony here that the U.S. exports are slumping, but yet this committee has refused to reauthorize the Export-Import Bank. These are unforced errors. And I thank you, and I look forward to hearing your testimony, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlelady yields back. Today we welcome the testimony of the Honorable Janet Yellen. Chair Yellen has previously testified before our committee, so I believe she needs no further introduction. At the request of the chair, I wish to inform all members I intend to adjourn the hearing at 1 p.m. this afternoon. Chair Yellen, without objection, your written statement will be made a part of the record. Chair Yellen, you are now recognized for 5 minutes to give an oral presentation of your testimony. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Chairman Hensarling, Ranking Member Waters, and members of the committee, I'm pleased to present the Federal Reserve's semi-annual monetary policy report to the Congress. In my remarks today, I will discuss the current economic situation and outlook before turning to monetary policy. Since my appearance before this committee in February, the economy has made further progress toward the Federal Reserve's objective of maximum employment, while inflation has continued to run below the level that the FOMC judges to be most consistent over the longer run with the Federal Reserve's statutory mandate to promote maximum employment and price stability. In the labor market, the unemployment rate now stands at 5.3%, slightly below its level at the end of last year and down more than 4.5 percentage points from its 10% peak in late 2009. Meanwhile, monthly gains in non-farm payroll employment averaged about 210,000 over the first half of this year, somewhat less than the robust 260,000 average seen in 2014, but still sufficient to bring the total increase in employment since its trough to more than 12 million jobs. Other measures of job market health are also trending in the right direction, with noticeable declines over the past year in the number of people suffering long-term unemployment and in the numbers working part-time who would prefer full-time employment. However, these measures, as well as the unemployment rate, continue to indicate that there is still some slack in labor markets. For example, too many people are not searching for a job but would likely do so if the labor market was stronger.